What's going on, everyone? I know it's been a minute since I made a video, but school has just started, so it's been kind of hectic around here, just sort of getting adjusted to the new schedule, kind of prioritizing, getting situated, organized, making sure that I have all of the necessities needed to succeed and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. Basically, I've just been busy. Still been hitting the gym, obviously. We do have week 5 and 6 bench footage of this new benching 3 times per week on sort of this linear progression that I've been going on. Can't believe it's been 6 weeks of doing this, but we did have a few hiccups this week, so we're going to get into the footage right now and when I'm going to talk about it. Also, I did get a haircut. I didn't really know what to do with my hair, so I just buzzed it all off. I don't know if it makes my head look smaller. Actually, I think it does make my head look smaller, so that's not an ideal sitch. Also, we got a new mic. Hopefully that this eliminates like some of the echoey and, sort of in general background noise, higher quality stuff. I was using an old Guitar Hero mic with a sock over it as a pop filter. So we did have quite of a bushwhack setup, but I actually got pretty decent audio out of that, so I'm not necessarily complaining at all. But those are the only new things. Without further ado, let's get into the footage. Week 5, day 1, started off with 240 pounds, which was the right weight to select here. Got this for 2 sets of 8, and my AMRAP this week was 10. I didn't really know if I should have gone for 235 or 240 because of the whole AMRAP situation that happened the last 2 weeks where I did 230 twice in a row. But I decided to go ahead and go with 240 because I did get 12 on one of those AMRAPs. I think it was the later one, like the one that was the AMRAP week that was week 4 instead of week 3. So since I got 12 on that, I decided to just go ahead and bump it to 240, and I got 10, so it went pretty smooth. So obviously that was a good judgment call. Also this week, I don't know if I mentioned it. I haven't mentioned it yet, but I think this is the week where I started to implement other training, started to ramp my leg volume up a little bit. Next, we moved into 260. This one I only got 7 for the AMRAP. So that was the first time that I got less than 8 on this AMRAP, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. But yeah, this is also the week that I started implementing some extra programming, I guess you could say. Like I was actually doing stuff for my legs. I was starting to do more sort of a rounded routine instead of like, basically what I've been doing is I've just been sort of prioritizing bench. I would do a few accessories. I definitely do some back stuff, but I wouldn't really do any lower body stuff at all. And then also it was very it wasn't consistent in like what movements I was doing, what reps, what sets, just, kind of just getting extra volume in before. Whereas now I'm trying to write out a program that I can do while on this sort of split. And it's been a little bit difficult just because I'm trying to manage all kinds of variables here. But for the most part, I'm just trying to figure out what exercises I want to do, in what order, and on what days. So I was moving to day 5. This is 270. My AMRAP on the 270 was 5, and that was the first time that I got 260 for 5 about 3 weeks ago, so that's misspoke for me, but I got 6 the week prior to this, so I was kind of hopeful for a 6 here, but I'll definitely take the 5, obviously. I was finally able to go to 2.25 the following week, which we'll see in a minute here. But yeah, so basically I'm kind of been transitioning into a proper routine that trains the full body. It's basically been an upper lower split, with the final day being sort of kind of akin to what Jeff Nipper did, where on the end of his full body day, he would basically, or the full body week rather, he you basically just throw in some accessory movements that didn't get a lot of training volume during the week. So things like the arms, the side delts, abs, calves, etc. And here's where we get into it. So this is 245 pounds for 8. And this is the first stall that I had on the program. So I made 5 straight weeks of continuous progress. It did slow, but it was continuous. I didn't stall one time for 5 weeks. And this was the first stall, was 245 for 8. Now, I hit 8 on my AMRAP. So I got the 8 reps, but I didn't get enough reps to go up the next week. So that poses a question of, what do I do at this point? And we'll talk about that in just a second here. But really quickly, back to the split. It's basically an upper-lower split, with the 6th day being my third bench day of the week, followed by a bunch of accessories. Like I do hip thrusts on that day because I want to get my glutes up. I do some arms. I do some back. Just stuff that I didn't get to do throughout the week. It's still in the process of being organized, so it's not in its final form, so to speak, yet. But basically, I bench, I squat. Actually, no, here's the split, right? So I squat, I bench, I deadlift, I bench again. I squat and deadlift on the same day, but this deadlift is a variation. And then I bench on the final day. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And I'll probably explain that in a different video coming up here. But I'm still ironing out this split. So it's not fully realized yet. And I might have to move a lot of things around, especially because of this. So I take this 245 pounds to failure, and I get stuck about, I would say 2/3 of the way up, maybe even 3/4. It was really, really upsetting that I could not finish that lockout. And then we moved on to 265 pounds, which was another stall. So I was looking at this final week here, really, really upset. Because, not upset, I guess that's not the right word. I mean, obviously I wanted to, progress into infinity. But it's more like I really, it didn't align with my progression on my squat and my deadlift the way that I wanted it to. We're basically a week behind. So I was kind of just like, that's a bummer, And I was thinking, well, 2 out of the 3 days I stall. If I stall on the 3rd day, then I might have to switch things up. But we'll get to that in just a second here. But this is the final set. And again, it's like, I'm going to spoil it a little bit here. Obviously, I still get 6. I don't get 5 or anything. But I get 6, and I try for the 7. And it's like, again, it's about halfway up, maybe 2/3 of the way up. I hit a sticking point, and I just cannot finish it. And it's just, I don't really know what that is. Is that delt? Is that tricep? Actually, I just called it quits there, really. I didn't even look at this footage yet. But this is 275 pounds. So this is the lift that throws a wrench into the whole thing, because I actually do end up getting 5 reps on this AMRAP here with 275. So now I'm kind of confused, because it's like, okay, well, I missed 2 of the days, but on the 3rd day, my heaviest day, which you'd think would stall first, is actually still a day in which I progress, which means I can go up to 280 next week. So I'm kind of confused. I don't really know what to do. My thought process initially was, well, maybe I should just deload anyway, because if I wanted to make progress, going forward, but, if 2 out of 3 have stalled, I probably should just deload and either start from less weight or move on to a bit of a more complex progression scheme. And I really grinded out for that 5th rep there. Kind of proud of myself for doing that. But yeah, basically, my thought process was, well, I stalled 2 out of 3. Maybe I should just deload, because 2 out of 3 days I didn't progress. That's above 50%, obviously. Maybe it's time to switch things up. Maybe it's time to move to a different progression scheme. Or maybe it's time to just, go back down and start from a bit of a higher place than I was before. But then I progressed on that last day, which is my heaviest day. And that got me thinking, well, perhaps it was just outside external factors that made me stall on that day. Perhaps I just, misgrooved or something. That whole, it was just a misgroove, bro. But it could be possible that it just wasn't there on the day. Maybe I should try for another week, see if I progress again. And if I stall again on the same lifts again, then I will know, okay, it is time to deload and either go back to the beginning, start at a bit of a higher percentage, or start with a sort of a different progression scheme that sort of builds on this one. And I'm still kind of not too sure what I'm going to do. I am leaning towards trying for a different progression scheme, but also part of me just wants to give it another week. Then what will happen is if I progress, then I progress. That'll be great. And if I don't progress, then I know it's time for a deload. So that can also go different ways. So I could deload and then go back to, basically running this sort of DUP linear, just starting with higher weights, maybe starting at 10 pounds more than I did last time, or 15 pounds more than I did last time. Or I could deload and I could test. It has been a long time since I tested my bench press. Obviously my upper body has been healthy throughout this entire period of, just my lower back being injured and not being able to train legs. The last time that I tested my bench was probably October, maybe September. So it's been about 4 or 5 months since I actually tested my bench. And that bench was 285 pounds. And these percentages started at 300 pounds. And I kind of really want to test and see if I have a 300 pound bench, because that would be a pretty big goal for me. And if I plug these numbers into a 1-rep max calculator, it puts my 1-rep max around 310. So I don't know if I have 310 in me. It would be nice to see. But, I also don't want to stop the gravy train of gains. There's no reason to test other than to find out what my 1-rep max is. However, because I'm training for strength, there's no reason not to test, especially since it's been 4 months. So I'm not really sure what to do at this point in time. Obviously, this doesn't take into a factor the fact that I'm also now training my legs. And this was one of the things that I was worried about, was when we started to incorporate lower body volume, which is usually more taxing on recovery anyway, that I thought my bench numbers were going to take a dip just because of the addition of that. If I deload, do I test? Or do I just start this progression scheme again at a smaller percentage? Or do I go to a bit of a more complex progression scheme, a bit of a more complex periodization scheme? I have no idea. So yeah, that is that. But the good news is I hit a huge all-time PR at 275 pounds for 5 reps. That is a weight that I didn't think I would touch for a very, very long time. I struggled with it for 2 in September. Since week 2, I would say it's been basically PR train. The entire time. I've been in PR City hitting PRs left and right on the bench, which is a lift that I did not think I was going to hit PRs on, or at least significant PRs on, for a very long time. And yet, here we are. Lots of things to think about, lots of things to consider. Hopefully, this is the spark of some new content coming in. I wanted to talk about my nutrition because that's really important. That's also going to play a factor into this. Obviously, I want to talk about my program, but it's not fully realized yet, so still working some stuff out. And I wanted to talk about my goals for 2021. So that is probably going to be an easy video to make and will be something that I will talk about relatively soon. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys are also out there crushing some massive PRs. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.